Voy a hablar en inglés, pero después no preocupes, voy a decir algo también en español. Entonces, Jesus had compassion for those people. They were listening to him the whole day, and it was too late for them to go and buy bread. So Jesus said, let's give them food. They said, we have only 5 loaves of bread, 2 fish. Jesus said, bring them to me, place before me. And then he performs the miracle, multiplies for 5,000 people. The message is this, very beautiful message. God does miracles also today in our lives, provided that we place before him, provided that we present to him all that we have without any reserve. He doesn't like half-hearted answers from us. When man surrenders totally to God, it is at that moment God performs miracles. Often we pray, God doesn't listen to me, my prayers. He doesn't do anything to me, I am very faithful. But God does miracles only when we surrender totally ourselves to God. Dios puede hacer milagros hoy también en nuestras vidas, pero hay una condición. Tenemos que presentar a Él todos que tenemos. Es el mensaje del Evangelio de hoy, ¿no? Como ha hecho con 5 panes y 2 pescados para 5,000 personas, hoy también sigue a hacer milagros en nuestra vida, solo cuando entregamos, cuando tenemos el coraje de presentar completamente en sus manos. Basta. Es el mensaje del Evangelio. Today I want to speak to you, my dear brothers and sisters, at length. Don't be frightened. Maybe 30 minutes Father Theo gave me. I want to speak about the silence of God. The Holy Father, Pope Francis, has given the theme for this year of the Jubilee, Pilgrims of Hope. We are all pilgrims on this earth. As we have heard yesterday in all the homilies and readings, that this earth does not belong to us. This life does not belong to us. All that we have, all that we are, belongs to God. We are only pilgrims, peregrinos, on this earth. Nothing belongs to us. Pilgrim is one who is just passing. Everything belongs to someone else. So therefore we are pilgrims on this earth, but we live with hope. What is our hope? That one day or the other we will inherit those dwelling places of which Jesus is speaking. That one day or the other we will enter into the presence of God and enjoy that eternal bliss. Now, during this earthly life, often there are moments in which we lose hope because God seemed to be silent. He seemed to be sleeping. Why does God keep silence? How should we respond to those moments of silence of God? If you remember in the Gospels, Jesus was praying often. For example, on the day of his baptism, while he was praying, after the baptism, while he was praying, the dove, the Holy Spirit comes and anoints him, and the people around him hear a voice, "This is my beloved Son. This is my beloved Son, or you are my beloved Son, in whom I am very happy. I am pleased. Then, on the day of transfiguration, if you remember, there was Peter, James, and John. And also they heard a voice, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Listen to him." And also during other times, Jesus used to pray in deserted places, in silence. He used to go to places to listen to the voice of his Father. Because in that voice, in that silence, Father used to reveal his will to the Son. Because the Son said, "To do the will of my Father is my food and drink." So therefore, he used to go to deserted places, trying to listen what God the Father wants of him. So prayer is a place, a silent moment in which we try to listen to God's voice. That's what Jesus was doing. He was praying. He was having a conversation with the Father during prayer. Now, towards the end of his life, after the Last Supper, Jesus goes to the Garden of Gethsemane. Listen to me carefully what happens there. He takes along with him Peter, James, and John. He tells them, he was in struggle. He was anxious, tensed. He said, "Stay here. I want to go and spend some time with my Father." And he goes a little further and he begins to pray in the Garden of Gethsemane. Just imagine Jesus kneeling down, looking up towards heaven and trying to speak to the Father as he did so far. In all these 3 years, God the Father was present to him. God the Father was talking to him. God the Father was trying to reveal his will. So at this most important moment of his lifetime, before the crucifixion, death, he wanted to listen to the voice of the Father. He wanted to hear from the Father a word, "My Son, this is the time. The time has come. Go ahead. I am with you." So Jesus wanted to hear this voice. He goes into the garden and is praying. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Father doesn't speak. Silent. He is silent. Jesus was annoyed. What happened? Till yesterday you were talking to me and I was listening to your voice. Now what happens? So he waited for a few more moments and comes back and sees disciples feeling sleepy. And he said, "Can't you wait for me for a few more minutes?" So then he goes back again to pray. Second time he was trying to listen to the voice of the Father. He spends 15 minutes, 20 minutes. God the Father seemed to be sleeping. He doesn't speak. Silence of God. Then Jesus comes once again to the disciples and he sees them sleeping. So Jesus, third time, he goes to pray. Third time, he spends another 15, 20 minutes or half an hour. No use. He was trying to listen to Father's voice, but Father is silent. That pained Jesus so much. That pains him so much. Why, Father? Why are you silent? You were accompanying me all these 3 years. You were with me. You enabled me to do all these miracles. You anointed me, consecrated me, you empowered me. Now, why are you silent? He was reflecting about this silence. Finally, from the cross, he could not withhold. He bursts out. And what does he say? "Father, why have you abandoned me? Why have you abandoned me?" He doesn't stop there. Okay, it's okay. Even though you are silent, but I'm sure that you are present in my life. Your silence does not indicate your absence. I believe, my Father, that you are present in my life and that I am doing your will. Then Jesus continues to say, I commend my spirit into your hands. I believe in you, my Father. I entrust all that I am doing into your hands. I commend my spirit into your hands. He professes, he proclaims his faith in the Father. He doesn't stop at the silence. Sometimes there are people who, some of us, we have lots of problems in life, sickness, death. Why for me, Father? I had been so faithful all my life. Jesus also was faithful. But God abandons him seemingly. Why, Father? I had been regular to the church. I had been active in practicing my faith. Why? God is so silent. Why all kinds of sufferings and why all kinds of problems only to me, only in my family? This is a question we often ask, and we don't have answers. We don't have answers. Jesus himself asked this question. There is nothing wrong in asking a question, my brothers and sisters. There is nothing wrong to ask God, why have you done to me? Why are you silent? Even in the Old Testament, Job asked the same question. Why? I had been so faithful. Why all the sickness? Why have you abandoned me? Job also asked the same question. But these people, Job or Jesus, they never stopped asking at this point of asking question. They did not stop with asking the questions. They went ahead, took another step forward, and they said, Lord, even though you are silent, we believe that you are present in our lives and we accept your will. Do whatever you want, but we know that you are present in my life. My brothers and sisters, this we should be able to do that in our lives. True, God seemed to be absent, seemed to be abandoning us, but we should take further step at that moment and profess our faith. Then what happens? Job receives 100 times more. All that he lost, he regains. What happens to Jesus? Third day, he is risen, resurrected. That is what awaits when we profess our faith. But often we stop there and we pose questions to God and we lose our faith. We stop going to the church. But Jesus hasn't done that. He said, your silence does not mean your absence, my Father. Still I believe in you. Are you able to say this? When we are able to say this, certainly God will do miracles in our lives. He will give us back 100-fold all that we have lost. El silencio de Dios. Jesús también en su vida ha experimentado el silencio del Padre en el jardín de Getsemaní. Una vez, dos veces, tres veces, quería escuchar una palabra del Padre, pero el Padre no habla. Jesús pregunta, Padre, ¿por qué? ¿Por qué me has abandonado? Pero allí no acaba la historia. Y después sigue a decir, Padre, en tus manos entrego mi vida, mi ánima. Así también en nuestra vida, cuando encontramos dificultades, confusiones, muerte, sickness, what do you say? Enfermedad. Sí. Experimentamos este silencio de Dios en nuestra vida. ¿Por qué en mi vida? ¿Por qué Dios? Podemos preguntar. Dios, pero Cuando no hay respuesta, tenemos decir más al Señor: Señor, en tus manos, confío en ti. Yo sé que tú eres silencioso, pero tengo confianza en ti. Yo sigo a creer que tú eres presente. Tu silencio no indica tu ausencia, tú eres presente. Tenemos a ver este coraje a decir al Señor. Este es el primer mensaje que quería dar. El silencio de Dios también experimentamos en nuestra vida, como Jesús, como Job en el Antiguo Testamento. Tenemos que continuar a creer en Dios. Bien. In our lives, there are these seasons of silence. Seasons of silence, moments of silence of God, lots of sufferings. God seemed to abandoning us. How should we act in those moments? And why does God abandon us? Why does God leave us sometimes in our lives? Let me go back to the Old Testament. You know, the people of Israel walked for how many years? 40 years in the desert. Do you need 40 years to go from Egypt to the promised land? They need a couple of weeks or maybe a few more days, but doesn't take 40 years. But God made them to walk for 40 years, true. He made them to go roundabout. They said, the promised land is so close. Why is he making us to go all around? But God purposefully made them to walk for 40 years. 40 years. Because these 40 years of temptation, 40 years of struggle, pain they had to undergo, God allowed them. God allowed them to experience this suffering. Why did God allow them to walk for 40 years? Or why did God make them to walk 40 years? Because they were not ready to inherit the promised land. They were not ready to possess the promised land. When we speak of the promised land, don't imagine that there was an empty land and the people of Israel could go and occupy. Not true. You read the book of Joshua, chapter 6. As they enter the promised land, the first thing they had to do was conquer the city of Jericho. So there were people living in the promised land. The people of Israel had to conquer them, fight with them, smite them, kill them, and then occupy the land. God knows that these people are not prepared. So he made them to go around and around, and in 40 years, there was a new generation, strong people, and when they were ready, he let them enter the promised land. These 40 years are not meant for God to prepare the blessing for them. Listen to me carefully. God abandoned them for these 40 years or prepared them or gave a gap of these 40 years not to prepare the blessing for them. Blessing was already there. The promised land is existing there. But they were not ready for the blessing. Blessing is already there, but they were not ready for the blessing. So God allowed them to wander for 40 years so that they were ready to receive the blessing. In our lives also, sometimes God is silent. God allows us to suffer. He is preparing us for something better. He is preparing us for something better. We need to have patience. We want to understand the mysteries of God, but not possible. We want to understand with clarity, what does God want to do in my life? But you will not find answers. God's ways are mysterious. Man should have patience And every moment of silence or abandonment is meant to prepare us for a blessing. So man should have patience. You know the story of David. He was anointed as the king by Samuel. But afterwards he was abandoned. He was abandoned for so many years. His brothers were celebrating with Saul, and this man was abandoned with the sheep. He was alone, feeding the sheep as a shepherd. But he was not frustrated. My brothers are enjoying, and I'm alone here, grazing with the sheep. David was never disappointed. He was never frustrated. He never compared himself with others. But in that silence of God, in that moment of isolation, in that moment of abandonment, what did David do? He tried to get closer to God. He spent his time in prayer, composing psalms. The Lord is my shepherd. There is nothing I shall want. In the valley of darkness, I don't fear. He is with me. That's what he did in that moment of abandonment, isolation, and silence. He grew in his relationship with God. He didn't compare with others. He tried to be faithful to his job. He was taking care of the sheep. My brothers and sisters, in those moments of silence, when we feel God has abandoned us, let's have patience. We need to have patience. God has planned a big blessing for us in our lives, but we need to have patience. We need to be faithful, and we need to trust God. We need to entrust our lives to God, like David. When the time comes, David was well prepared. He proved his trustworthiness. When God abandoned David, he didn't lose his faith. He manifested his trust in God. He grew up. He became mature spiritually, physically. So God then gives him the crown. You see how God prepared him? Same, Genesis chapters 37 to 50. You have the story of Joseph. Joseph was sold to the Egyptians. While other brothers were enjoying with the father, this poor Joseph was sold. God seemed to have abandoned him, silent in his life, isolation. But God's plan was different. He becomes number 2 in Egypt. Joseph never complained. He had patience. He trusted in God, a God who will never fail his promises. And that trust sustained him in those moments of isolation and silence. God prepares us in those moments of silence. He's preparing us for a blessing, which is already existing. And in those moments of silence, we need to be patient and continue to trust in God. During winter, the trees seem to be dead, right? During winter, no leaves, they are dead. But they are not dead. There is life inside. When the winter gets over, with increased enthusiasm, the tree begins to flourish. So too, in those moments of silence, when God abandons us seemingly, when God seems to be silent, we should not lose patience. He is working with us. In silence, He is preparing us. I personally have experienced all this. In the year 2021, everything looked dark around me. I was the Assistant General, and I had to make some serious decisions, and everyone begins to blame me. When we do God's work, that's what we receive: persecution, criticism. I never lost faith. I never lost faith. In my silence daily, I tell you, 2021 October to 2024 February, daily morning 1 hour, evening 1 hour, we as Carmelites, we have 2 hours of contemplation, 2 hours of mental prayer. Every day I used to recite, "The Lord is my shepherd, there is nothing I shall want." Even though I walk in darkness, dark valleys, in Italian I used to recite every day in my prayer. I was meditating daily, daily, daily. That gave me strength. And on a fine day, I understood God was preparing me for something bigger. I get a phone call. "You are made the Bishop of Kurnool." Lots of people, slander, criticism, tarnishing the name, speaking ill. But there is someone in whom I trusted. In that silence, I got closer to God. And in His own time, He gave me the biggest blessing. He wants us to be patient. He wants us to trust in Him. He wants that we entrust our lives to Him. He will never fail us. He has always something bigger for us. Blessing is ready for us, but He is waiting, He is training us, and He is preparing us for the blessings. So my brothers and sisters, when God is silent in your lives, when you feel isolated, when you feel abandoned, trust in God. Get closer to Him. He is giving a bigger blessing. Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days. He was patient. Then there was the resurrection. That will happen in our lives too. En español, unas palabras. He dicho mucho en inglés. Ahora no puedo repetir todo, pero en los momentos de desolación o abandono del Señor, no tenemos que perder confianza en Él. Es un tiempo de preparación, el tiempo de maturación. Por ejemplo, el pueblo de Israel han tenido que caminar para 40 años. No necesita 40 años para llegar a la tierra promesa, pero no son preparados para hereditar esta tierra. No son preparados, no son fuertes para combatir en la tierra promesa. Por eso 40 años de esperanza, 40 años de preparación. El rey David, él también ha tenido pasar el tiempo de isolamiento, ¿se dice? Isolation. Aislado, abandonado por el Señor, pero no he perdido su confianza en el Señor. Acercado el Señor en oración. El Señor es mi pastor, no me abandona. Tenía una gran confianza en el Señor. Y en final, cuando pasa tiempo, es preparado para ser el rey de Israel, David. Y así también José, en el Antiguo Testamento, Génesis, José, abandonado, pero él nunca ha perdido su confianza en el Señor. He never complained, non frustrated. Tenido fe, confianza en el Señor. En final, le va a ser el rey de Egipto. Así también, queridos hermanos, en nuestra vida hay momentos de silencio de Dios. Parece que el Dios ha abandonado, pero está preparándonos para algo muy grande. Está preparándonos para la bendición muy grande. Nosotros no tenemos que perder la esperanza. Esperanza, hope will never fail us. Nuestro Señor, nuestro Dios es un Dios fiel. Tenemos que creer. Nuestro Dios es un Dios. He will never fail us. He's a God who keeps up His promises. He accompanies us. Camina con nosotros en nuestra vida. Él, Emmanuel, no solo está con nosotros, camina con nosotros. No tenemos que tener miedo. A veces silencio de Dios, abandono, pero está allí con nosotros. Esta confianza nos ayuda a vivir la vida con alegría. In spite of sufferings, we can still hope that God has something better for me. And that hope will lead us to journey this life with joy and happiness. I think I'll stop here and we'll continue tomorrow evening.